So I am doing.
But from the last time I saw him, he's definitely.
I thought I had a different one.
Yeah.
The Hamilton series should be coming out soon. No.
So the unfolded
I don't know if the church
might
was
be
on
a year
Sunday.
older or it might be like that.
Might be a year older.
Some.
But I also got this, which is a survey that I did.
Oh.
Where they just basically, but here's teachers looking at giving as far as an increase where they're at.
All in one.
That helps me out about.
Oh, hi.
Grape is really.
Oh, he's here in the morning.
And actually, so are the cherry, or whatever the red are.
I'm saving the reds to last.
Yeah, those are good.
By the way, yeah.
No.
There is such a thing?
Nothing to for her over there.
Oh.
Or there's these caramel apple things.
Okay.
There's
I'll use that right after my bottle. I got Julia.
They're really good.
Thank you.
Really good.
You've got a thing.
I'm calling you Kelly.
Oh, what's the little? Okay, sorry to take.
Bottle cap.
Oh, that was from Julie. Right. So now you're like me, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How's your notepad?
That's great. I've had many.
Oh, the cherry is a mini.
I would surprise.
Cherry, cherry.
Bottle cap guy?
A bottle what?
Bottle cap guy, like.
No, can guy.
Yeah, I like, either Harvey or like a dollar.
I'm not gonna get a lot of
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna
For a week or
Yeah,
two.
pull that filling right out.
Yeah.
Make any kind of comment, yeah.
I went through all the comments.
Yeah.
But we actually,
Gummy bears.
well, we went through when people make comments on comments. Okay, so if nobody made a comment, you are assuming it's good as it is. No adjustments necessary. What does it say?
Grape is my favorite.
Are you alright?
Just in case you're ready.
Yeah, post it, take it in there later. For example. I don't even know. I never signed up to, final. She said she was going to finish. She said, I'm working on a document. One of those things tomorrow. There has to be a problem here. What you're deciding, which means verify and clarify your comments. She's asking. I'm assigned for our site. But I also don't know if she's talking about. They're all blacked out. Thank you.
In the hospital. So,
So all at once, wants to see what she's posted for you.
Taking notes, is that what you're going to start to do for
taking
the
notes on you.
Oh.
7:24.
Now observe her earnestly, looking in my direction.
Now I can't take my notes. You're taking notes. You're taking notes.
Yeah, my dad said
what? Oh, it is. Maybe that was part of her master plan. She wanted me to make it.
I'm not having to be that water. Yeah.
Again, that's the part I'm not sure.
Anyway,
Here you want them?
the red ones are really good.
Oh,
Take it notes and get it all out of your system.
So maybe she's doing 4.
so if you're a lead, then you should follow her example. Are you a lead?
0, category 4.
Oh, so she did your work for
That's
you.
okay, good.
No.
Just see another set of
I just asked that.
Okay,
So
we don't need to close here.
Not yet, I'm just working on it. So essentially what we do is we'll just.
And this one, I got them back there and everybody actually like logged in.
There were a whole bunch of them, but are they all in one? That's interesting. And I just went through and deleted all of them automatically. So it's number 8. So they're not important.
That's from Norway.
I just put it in there.
I spoke with the unconditional.
And I just listed them. So.
Because this
Are you ready there?
So are you gonna put the dashboard up there?
Well, that's what I thought I had done before.
Okay, all right. We're reconvening into open session. First item on the agenda moving forward is the Pledge of Allegiance. Chris, would you lead us?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. First item on the agenda moving forward is consent agenda. Any items? Well, first, I need a motion for consent agenda.
Second.
Any items that we need to take separately? Hearing none, all those in favor of consent agenda as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 5, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Thompson.
Okay. Well, good evening. Month into school, and I'd have to say things are going really well. I've had the pleasure of going into each of the buildings each week since the start of school, and it's just been wonderful to see the students and teachers just thriving. So beautiful. The first agenda item for Superintendent's Report is the 2015 Muskego High School graduation. It's set for Saturday, June 15th. At 1:30 p.m. In the Salentine Gymnasium. Last year it was on a Saturday, but it was at 12:30. It is going to be on the same day as an ACT test, so they want to make sure that the traffic congestion won't be there this year. So they're moving it an hour later than what they had last year. So that's graduation. The district city newsletter distribution, we are partnering again this year with the city to distribute 2 district city newsletters for 2014-15, and the fall edition will be distributed sometime next week. We do have a recognition for Coach Hess, which we'll deliver to him. He was actually named by the National Federation of High School Coaches Association as the 2013-14 Boys Soccer Coach of the Year for Wisconsin. So huge recognition for Coach Hess, and so we're extremely proud of what he's done for the soccer program here in Muskego, Norway, and wish him all the success in the future. So congratulations, Coach Hess. The next item is the district student performance report. And actually we have a team, the teaching and learning team, that will walk us through that, and I am going to be Lisa Sabago tonight. So I will walk through those slides for you as well. So I think, Ted, you're starting it off?
Starting off, so I think Dawn's just going to go up front and kind of switch over for a second. So thank you for the opportunity to share an overview for, with how our students are performing. I'm going to start by sharing, I'm going to start this evening by talking about some highlights from our school report cards, followed by a number of metrics that are related to student engagement, such as attendance, graduation, and co-curricular participation. After that, Kari's going to talk about how students with special ed needs are performing, as well as provide a follow-up to some questions that were asked by board members at an earlier presentation. And then after Kari goes, we're going to work backward from how we typically do it, starting at elementary, middle, and high school. We're going to start with the high school level with Dr. Thompson stepping in for Lisa Sabago today, sharing data related to performance of our high school and middle school students, followed by Dawn, who's going to talk about how our elementary students are performing. We're then going to transition to a brief conversation about our recently completed college and career pathway, which is one of a variety of ways, actually kind of exciting, that we're going to be using to closely monitor student progress K-12 to ensure that every student leaves our district prepared for the rigors of post-secondary, as well as to begin a career. And finally, Dawn's going to wrap things up by sharing some of our strategic actions, which are focused activities that we're doing this year to help meet our goals. So with that, we can switch to the next. Thank you. So as you know, school reports for Wisconsin have been released. And as a quick review, these report cards provide data on multiple indicators in 4 priority areas. So they look at student achievement, student growth, closing gaps, and then post-secondary readiness. And based on how schools perform in these 4 areas, an overall score is assigned that range from significantly exceeding expectations, exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, meeting few expectations, and fails to meet expectations. Now, while all of our schools have historically met or exceeded expectations, this year is exciting. We have 2 of our schools, the high school and Lakeview, who joined the very top performing schools in our state with receiving the rating of significantly exceeding expectations. This is a really an impressive accomplishment when you consider that fewer, at least at the high school level, fewer than 6% of high schools across the state actually achieve that designation. So it's very impressive. Both of these schools have also demonstrated consistent growth over the 3 years that the scorecards have been in existence. So they've showed good, steady growth the entire time, leading to where they are right now with the significantly exceeding expectations. Aside from the impressive significantly exceeding expectations ratings at the high school in Lakeview, you'll notice from the slide that across the district, most of our schools fall within the exceeding expectations category, with only 1 school right now falling with the meeting expectations rating. Thank you. In the areas of graduation and attendance, Waukesha County leads the state in both of these areas, and we are among the top within that tier as well. Oddly enough, you'll notice at the bottom it's 12-13 data. For whatever reason, these 2 areas are just, it's really lagging data. And I checked today actually to see if it had been updated yet. It's going to be updated at any point, but the data is a little older. But the graduation percentage represents students who complete within 4 years. And our current percentage is 96.7, which, as I mentioned, is in the top of that top tier. And this represents a 3-year trend. 3 years ago, we were down as low as 93, and we've gone up those 3+ percentage points over these last couple of years, which is nice growth.
Ted, just a quick question on that.
Yeah.
For our students that continue on through the 18 to 21 program, would they be part of that percentage that would be considered as not graduating within 4 years?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
So how closely, do you know approximately what our population is of students that go on
The
to
number
that?
of students in the 18 to 21?
Off the top of my head, I believe there are 14 students that are currently participating in that service model. And they would then be included in graduation rates after 6 years. So we still see the results of our students graduating, but they would not be counted in within 4 years.
4 years, okay. So that information might be helpful for people to disseminate going forward that, say we're at 98%, well, 2% of our students are not graduating because they want to continue in this program to help them. So.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that. Similar to graduation, our current attendance rate is again solid at 96.7. Over the past 5 years, we've had, it's just really incremental growth. We're really at that point where we are, it's about as high as anyone around is getting at this point. Dawn, you can switch to the next slide. Thank you. So, kind of in preparing for this tonight, I actually asked the high school and both middle schools to send me like a list of all the co-curricular things that opportunities that we have for students. And I was actually pretty surprised to find that at the middle school level, we offer 27 different sports teams, clubs, and different ways for students to get involved. And that included 13 athletic programs, 12 academic programs, and 3 music clubs. The number of offerings has steadily increased in the past 5 years from 20 during the 08-09 school year to 27 currently. So quite a few different opportunities. At the high school level, we offer 23 interscholastic athletic programs and 28 other types of activities for students, including, I'm just naming a few here, AFS, debate, drama, forensics, language clubs, music, National Honor Society, band, photography, pom-pom, cheerleading, student council, yearbook, and obviously many more. It is interesting that we have, particularly in the academic area, that 2-year trend of decreasing numbers. And I think it is interesting. It's something we may want to dig into a little further. I don't have an answer to that right now as to why that is. But considering the importance that, the value that we put on the whole student and student engagement, I think it is worth pursuing a little further to find out, is that what that might be the result of, is if it's, we have reductions in certain clubs, or if a certain club was eliminated that had lots of students in it. I just don't know at this point, but it is worth following up on.
So would an example of an academic club at the high school level be like the math club? Is that what you think is included in that area?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to look into it, I would encourage you to look at when those clubs are all meeting. Because at least it seems that there's less opportunity for a student to participate at the 0 hour in, say, jazz band or Midnight Men or one of the music endeavors, and also be in the clubs, which tend to also meet at the same time.
Also might be conflicting.
So just a guess, but I think some of it just might be a scheduling preclusion.
Okay. Yeah, because we didn't see that drop at the middle level. Actually, their participation rates continue to increase. So, and then finally, currently we have approximately 13% of our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged, and this percentage is roughly comparable to other neighboring districts, with the exception of Waukesha, which is obviously much higher, much closer to 35%. When you look at the 5-year trend, there's obviously an increase. However, it seems as though in the past 2 or 3 years that there's been a bit of a leveling off. What we do know from looking at our data is that our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged, they're coming to school roughly the same amount as other students, but they are achieving at a somewhat lower rate. So when we look at ACT scores, on average, there's about a 2 points lower that they score, as well as 3% lower for 4-year graduation rates. So this is obviously another thing that we want to continue to sort of track. I am hopeful that initiatives like Chromebook, the Chromebook and other things that we're doing to try to level the playing field for all students will ultimately help so that they have the same access to technology. But it is, again, worth keeping in mind and keeping our eye on, because we want to make sure that every student can learn, grow, and succeed without regard to their economics. So I'm going to hand it off to Kari, unless there are any questions from anyone on the board. Thank you.
Okay. So as Ted shared earlier, I will be talking tonight about the proficiency rates for our students with IEPs, as well as talk a little bit about a previously asked question related to students who were in special education and have since been dismissed, and what their proficiency rates look like, some additional information that I found out with regard to that. So if you look at the screen here, we have the slide that shows us how our students with IEPs performed on the WKCE in relation to our benchmark districts, including the Classic 8, as well as Waukesha County School Districts. We've had some nice growth while we haven't arrived. Our reading proficiency scores this year have allowed us to move 3 bars to the left, with an inclining trend for proficiency for students with IEPs. And Arrowhead is the only Classic 8 district that is outperforming us at this time. So we'll continue to focus our efforts on improvement so that we can move ourselves all the way over to the left in the area of reading. Additionally, we have moved 3 bars to the left in the area of math as well. We still have some continued opportunity for growth there. I would like to highlight the fact that we are in the top half of the proficiency rating in comparison with our benchmark districts in Waukesha County, so in the area of reading, which is nice. We clearly have some additional work to do in the area of math. So the next slide actually represents quite a few things there. So I wanted to thank the board for the astute and thoughtful inquiry around how are our students who have been dismissed from special education faring post-dismissal. So what you see in front of you is a bar graph. The orange bar is the proficiency rate for students with IEPs. The left-hand side is reading, the right-hand side is math. You'll note that it's broken out for 4th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade. The brown bar is proficiency rate for our students without IEPs. And then the green bar is the number of students over the past, the previous 3 years. So it was 2010-11, 11-12, and 12-13, the number of students that were dismissed that took the WKCE in the fall of 2013. So, and that is their proficiency rate. What you'll note is they are performing better in most cases than students with IEPs. However, they're not necessarily performing at the same proficiency rate as students without IEPs. So this is something that as a district we will most definitely continue to track to ensure that our students are making adequate progress once they've been released from special education. This is something we'll be asking special ed teachers to maintain information on as well, just to keep track of their students on a watch list. The following slide is our percent of students enrolled in special education. You'll note that in comparison with our neighboring Waukesha County districts as well as the Classic 8, we are in the very low quadrant there of the screen as far as number of students, or percentage of students identified as kids requiring specialized instruction. And so that's exciting. We have a low population rate, which means that we must be doing some things right. And I'll ask Dawn to move on to the next slide so we can talk a bit about that. So what you have here in front of you is a graph showing the number of students enrolled in our system that have IEPs, and the brown bar represents that, and you'll see a declining trend there. The orange bar and the pumpkin colored bar represent our students with IEPs proficiency rate on the WKCE with the 5-year trend. The orange bar is reading and the pumpkin bar is math. So you'll notice that there's increased proficiency rate for students with IEPs as far as the WKCE goes, with the declining trend in the percentage of students who are requiring specialized instruction. So what that means is, while we have fewer students who are requiring special education, the students that we have requiring special education are increasing their proficiency rate significantly. The next screen here, and I'm sorry, just wanted to talk about a few reasons that we feel that that is happening. First of all, if you don't mind going back, Dawn, I'm sorry. Thank you. So we attribute the increase in proficiency to a strong Tier 1 instruction along with some targeted specialized instruction that's been happening over the last few years. We also have a strong co-teaching model where regular education partners and special education partners are coming together, collaborating around how they're providing cohesive instruction for our students who require IEPs and specialized instruction, and making sure that our struggling learners are not being asked to synthesize more than their general education peers by having that instruction really be aligned. So what they're receiving in regular education is aligned with the learning that they're doing in their pull-out targeted specialized instruction. And then, of course, that collaboration between regular ed and special ed partners has a significant contribution to that. So if you mind, thank you. So these are our dismissal trends. This is another piece of information that the board had requested. And what I'd like you to note is you have in front of you 2011-12 school year, 2012-13, and 2013-14. The blue bar is the number of students within those school years who were dismissed from special education and because they returned back to regular education. So they no longer required special education. It does not include students who graduated from our system, and it also does not include students who moved out of our system. So these are strictly kids who have been dismissed from special education. In addition to that, that orange bar that you see there on the right-hand side represents the number of students who qualified for special education in those school years. You'll notice a declining trend, and I want to share with you that within the 2012-2013 school year, we have had a significant increase in the number of multi-tiered supports that we are offering students. So we are not waiting for students to fail. We are getting in there. We are providing high-quality intervention for kids so that those holes in conceptual development or those gaps in their understanding are being closed, and they're able to maintain their general education learning experience. In addition to that, there's been a tremendous amount of work done by the teaching and learning team to really refine Tier 1 instruction and make sure that that's high quality. So I think that has a lot to do with the declining trend in the number of students who are qualifying for special education. The bottom part of that graph represents for you the enrollment number, the actual number of students in our system who have IEPs. Our system is just under 5,000 students for enrollment now, and you'll note that we have about 418 students who have IEPs in our system, or did as of the 2013-14 school year. So that's just a nice low prevalence rate that's reflective of the fact that high quality instruction is happening in your schools to ensure that kids are able to be successful without requiring that specialized instruction component. So if there aren't any questions, I will turn this over to Dr. Thompson, who's going to share with us about our secondary achievement data.
Okay, thank you. So secondary, I'll be providing some summary information regarding students at the 10th grade on the WKCE, also AP participation and success, and then the ACT. So first slide is looking at the longitudinal trend of Muskego High School grade 10 performance on the WKCE. As you may recall, reading and math will now be, and language arts will be now evaluated through the Aspire and ACT moving forward. So we will no longer have a WKCE band that will continue on here. Science and social studies will continue. So you see a nice trend upward for social studies and math. We have, reading is a little up and down here, and there's a lot of focus right now. Obviously, you know, one of our major student goals this year is a focus on literacy and the units that the district teachers have been constructing and deploying this year. So we expect that there will be a more consistent increase, but we'll be seeing that on a different assessment on the Aspire and on the ACT moving forward. So that's longitudinal for WKCE through, that would have been the fall of 2013, and so students will be taking the Aspire this year in the fall as ninth graders, and then in the spring as 9th and 10th graders, and the ACT will be the spring also. So moving forward, this is a comparison of how students, our students did this past year in the fall of 2013 on the WKCE in reading. And so what you'll see here is our comparable districts, which is Waukesha County. And our goal for our system is to have students' performance be within the top third of Waukesha County. We've moved this reading up a couple of levels, if you will. So we are now right about the top third. Certainly one data point doesn't make for a trend, so we're looking for at least 3 years of sustained top third within Waukesha County, so that we know that we can be confident that what we're doing is truly having an impact on our student performance. But we are pleased with the increase in the reading this last year and how it compares to our Waukesha comparables. The next slide is math. So same thing. We also moved up from the bottom third to now the middle third in math, and we're, you know, continuing our efforts to increase math proficiency in our system. So that's how we compare in Waukesha County. And I'm sorry, I didn't know the state line. That's the percentage across the state of student performance in math. And there was one for, if you want to just slide back to the last slide, that was reading. So how we compare not only to Waukesha County, but then the red line is state comparable. Okay, thanks, Ted. All right. Next, advanced placement. We have a few highlights. We have 25 AP courses offered in 2014-15, and hopefully more to come as CPC will start reviewing courses for approval for 15-16. In 2013-14, we had 656 AP tests taken. That's the highest we've ever had. 393 students took an AP test. That's unduplicated, so there are a number of students who take multiple APs. 528 students achieved scores of 3 or higher, which is about 78% of the tests taken. We were pleased with the increase in advanced placement participation success, and actually we'll be recognizing AP teachers on October 27th when we meet at the high school for their highlight. And so we'll be recognizing the AP teachers who have increased enrollment in their AP class and who have also increased the percentage of students taking the test and who are successful on that test. So looking forward to sharing that with you in the next couple of weeks. This is looking at all of the AP courses by subject. So there are a number of English AP courses, a number of fine arts, a number of mathematics and science and social studies, and then the total. So this is the total increase in the AP course enrollment. So you can see a very nice positive trend upwards. And then you'll see some, you know, sort of ups and downs and peaks. So science, for instance, took a nice increase from 13-14 to 14-15 because we had the AP Environmental Science. And so we have a number of students interested in that. And so that's just a summary of where students are kind of focusing in on what classes, so in the AP area. So that's good. This is going back 1 year because obviously for 14-15, although we have more students taking science now, this blue line for 14-15 will increase, but we just haven't had them take the test yet. So we are looking at 13-14 AP success. And what you'll see here is for all of the social studies classes, for instance, there were 294 students who took AP Social Studies last year, and 72.6% of them scored a 3 or higher on their AP exam, and 85.7% of the students taking social studies took the exam. So we want to continue to see the blue line grow, and we want to see the percentage of students taking the AP. If they're enrolled in AP, we have the expectation, and we put that in our course description book, that they take that AP assessment. And then, of course, we want them to be successful. Okay? Just a note, I'm looking back at some notes. Fine arts, you'll note, has fewer students taking the test, only 39.4%. It's because a big chunk of that is world language. And actually, there's an opportunity for students, if they go to a Wisconsin university, state university, they take placement tests, and that's how they get their credits. And so really taking the AP exam isn't as advantageous for them as it would be in other areas. So they don't encourage it as strongly. Okay, then moving on to ACT, which is another strong indicator for our system with regard to college and career readiness. And as you know, it's been an assessment that students were elected. They could take it now, starting in 2014-15. Every student will take it as an 11th grader, and they'll take it in March. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. But this is a scattergram looking at ACT score along this axis and GPA along this axis. So what we would expect is the students who are performing, who have high GPAs, also are doing well on the ACT. To look at correlation with regard to is what we're teaching students and expecting them to perform within schools similar to what is expected for ACT. It's not going to be causal, but it'll be, we want it to look very similar to that. So.
And the vertical and horizontal lines there at 20 for the ACT score and a little higher than G for the GPA.
Yes. Yeah, and actually this is about where colleges accept, but every school is a little different. So if we're talking about Madison, we're up here closer to 27. If we're talking about some other state universities, it might be a little bit lower. But I believe it's between 18 and 20 that you're looking at for entrance into colleges at the state.
And the horizontal line there above GPA?
That I think is just in the middle. 4.5 divided by 2 is 2.25. So nothing significant. Yeah. Okay, just to share with the community some opportunities for the juniors within our organization to be more prepared for the ACT. We do have a practice test on October 7th, actually tomorrow. All students will have access to an online preparation software. October 30th, all high school teachers will be engaged in professional development around understanding the rigor and the format of the tests so that they fully understand what that looks like and how do we embed some practice tests within, practice test items within our curriculum. So those are some things. All right. So here is the ACT composite comparison to benchmark districts, which is again the Waukesha County. And you can see that we're right in the middle. And again, our goal is to be in the top third. We did increase from being in the bottom third last year, and now we're in the middle third. The state line is red, so how we compare not only to Waukesha County, but the state. And actually last year we increased having more, we had 77% of our seniors take the ACT, which is an increase from 71% prior to that, and it hovered around 67% for years and years. So we were happy that more students were seeing themselves as college bound, and it was a lot of effort from high school and the adults around students to take the ACT. So helps us prepare for 100% taking it this year.
Can I get a question on that
Yeah.
state average, and maybe you may or may not know the answer. Is that average an average of the district's scores throughout the state, or is it the average student score throughout the state?
It is the highest ACT score that the student took. So
Okay.
they could have taken it 10 times. Their highest score will
But
go
that
into
average
that
is
average.
from the student, not the district.
Exactly.
Okay.
Moving forward, however, it will be different. Now they will only take, the state will only take the ACT score that the juniors took in March of their junior year.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if they took it 100 times and got higher scores. The one that counts for our accountability will be that March 3rd or March 18th score. So we encourage students to take the test preps, take the test prior to 11th grade, like they do now. So we still encourage that. Thanks for the question. A highlight of the ACT is, go ahead, is that in comparison to Waukesha County high schools, now this is more than just Elmbrook, for instance, it's Elmbrook Central and Elmbrook East. Muskego had the highest average ACT writing score. And so when we talked about what could have helped cause that, rather than it just being lucky, is that there has been an embedded writing across the curriculum that was started years ago at the high school and has continued as far as being a focus. So that's the highlights of the progress and the performance of students at the high school. Any questions? Okay, so now we're moving to middle school. We have the first slide. We'll be looking at the trend data for 8th grade students. And again, now 8th grade students will be taking the Smarter Balance in the spring for reading, math, and language arts. So this will no longer be a WKCE assessed area, but science and social studies will continue with the WKCE. So social studies tied for the all-time high. You know, social studies and science, they were never, the cut scores were never NAEPized, and so they're still very high, and that's across the state. Whereas reading and math and language arts were. So that's why you see such a disparity between them. But I don't think that they're going to be changing that until Smarter Balance takes on science and social studies. Okay, so reading at the 8th grade, these are the comparison districts, and we continue to be in the lower third, and that's an area that are focused on reading, and the units for reading are likely to increase over the next few years. So we're expecting even as soon as this spring with Smarter Balanced, you know, hopefully that we would be seeing increase in reading scores and putting us, you know, closer to our goal, which is again the top third of Waukesha County. Math, we're middle third of, you know, kind of on the lower end of the middle third. Again, our focus needs to be around that middle level, and reading and math and the efforts to increase performance for our students in those areas. We did move over from the right to the left, more proficiency in math this last year. So we're seeing, you know, some movement, but again, we need to track that to make sure that we see a consistent increase in that area for math at 8th grade. So I think that's it for middle school. Any questions or burning thoughts?
On the middle school?
Yeah. No? Okay.
On the elementary school, I'll get back to that after we're done.
Sure, and that's a good segue, and Dawn will start talking about elementary.
So this trend data looks similar in the way that it is presented as the other levels. But this represents our trends over the past 5 years in all areas measured by the WKCE. We're very pleased that in both reading and math, last year's performance represents the all-time high for us, and particularly in reading, besides a slight dip the prior year, it really has been a slow and steady increasing trend. Similarly, as the other levels, both reading and math are going to be measured through the Smarter Balanced Assessment this year, with science and social studies being measured through the WKCE this fall. Okay. So looking at our comparison with our other benchmark districts, you can see where we fall there for reading. Again, the red bar across the chart represents the state average, which we are well above. And we're also pleased here to note that we've moved into the near top third of our benchmark districts. And this represents our performance across, again, with the benchmark districts. The red line represents the state average. In general, math performance across the state, after being NAEPized, reported out at higher percentages. And right now we are in about the middle, as you can see there with our comparative districts. Both the increases in math and reading, we believe in part, are just really due to some focused efforts related to math professional development, as well as some of the work that we've been doing in the area of reading and reading development. However, I will speak to what our intentional plans are to continue to grow that proficiency.
Tom, for those watching, we've mentioned it a couple times, and those watching at home, can you explain what NAEPized is?
Sure. So when let's see, a few years ago, when we were moving, we knew that we would be moving towards the Smarter Balanced Assessment. The Smarter Balanced Assessment, which will be given this spring, has a different set of standards related to the Common Core. And so in order to help us prepare for that higher level of rigor and have a better understanding about how prepared our students are currently, the state took, well, the country took the WKCE scores and converted them to what that would have looked like against the NAEP, the National Assessment Standards. That was to help us prepare for how we might perform and what we might look like on the WKCE, or I mean on the Smarter Balanced this spring. So while it's not an exact prediction, it was meant to help us have a little bit closer understanding of where we would measure up against those higher, more rigorous standards.
Thank you.
Does that help? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now you also know, just for an additional data point, something that we're using for what we would consider as formatively and informatively throughout the year as part of our universal screening process is the Discovery Education Assessment. And so we, up through grades 1 through 5 is what's represented here on this chart. This shows where we performed at the end of the year, how many students were proficient or advanced, which we would say with a level 3 or level 4 performance rating on that end of year assessment. Now the Discovery Education Assessment is aligned with the Common Core, so it's another tool for us to determine who might be in need of interventions as the year is progressing. This assessment is given in fall then in January, and then at the end of the year. So again, this represents end-of-year proficiency on that Discovery Education Assessment. The blue bar represents reading, and the red bar represents math. Last year, we did not assess our first graders on the Discovery Education assessment in reading. However, this year, we are. We felt it would be helpful information and provides us multiple points throughout the year to monitor their progress in a systematic way, and again, aligned with the Common Core. And it will be particularly interesting this year as we progress to see how well the Discovery Ed assessment results also align with the Smarter Balanced performance and how our students do. Okay, so shifting gears from the elementary to a more system-wide document, and that is the Pathway to College and Career Readiness document. This document was developed really collaboratively. We've been talking about it for a number of years. What would be the benchmarks along the way throughout the system that would let us know if our students are on track to be successful post K-12 education? And so you'll see here for each level, there are both reading and math indicators or benchmarks that will let us know if our students are on track. At the elementary level, we are using the Discovery Education Assessment results, as well as the Teachers College book level assessment for elementary. At the middle level, it is similar, but we are also looking at how many of our students are receiving a C or better in 8th grade algebra. And we're going to talk about where we're at with these currently, and then what our goals are moving forward. And then finally, at the high school level, you'll see that we have indicators related to completion of English 9 and geometry in 9th grade successfully, as well as targets related to the ACT performance. So if you want to click to the next slide. This has a lot of bars on it, but it represents where we currently are in our system. So we consider this our baseline data. And then the red bar represents the goal that we have set for ourselves for this year. Just one thing I would note, you know, we could talk about each one, but the fact of the matter is this is our starting point, it's our baseline. But particularly with the 8th grade algebra, a C or better, you'll note that we're low right now. However, that's mainly due in part to we don't have as many students taking 8th grade algebra, so they can't earn a C or better. What we have, though, is a plan in motion to accelerate most of our students to be taking 8th grade algebra through the accelerated pathway, working through 7th and 8th grade and algebra, all 3 courses across the 7th and 8th grade year. And so with that, we do plan to see an increase in that area.
On that data point,
Yes.
well, she does look fairly low, but I'm wondering, is that just a point in time on it, or do we have a trend? If you look back, is that pretty consistent of what our 8th graders that have been taking algebra have been getting?
So I think I need to clarify, it's not that our students who are taking algebra, only 18% are receiving a C or better. It's that we have that low of participation in 8th grade algebra.
Okay.
That's where our plan of increasing the numbers of students who are actually having access to 8th grade algebra. And then, of course.
So then, I guess I don't understand the wording of it. It says percent C or better Algebra 1 at the end of 8th grade.
Right. So in order to earn a C or better at the end of 8th grade. they
Oh,
would have
yeah,
had
get it.
to have
Okay, so
taken
it's
algebra.
a percentage of the whole 8th grade
Exactly.
class, not the
Exactly.
percentage of the kids taking it.
Right.
And they have to meet both
Okay,
a C
All
and
right.
that they're taking.
I see. All right.
Dawn,
Yes.
on that,
Yes.
for 8th grade, would the Project I, how does that fit in on this? If they're doing Alex
Sure.
and they get through that, it's not really graded, but is that factored in on this somehow, or is that not part of this statistic?
So they would be
Okay.
included, they would be considered, and actually, I would want to double check on the specific statistics, behind this, but it is including all students. And so I'm thinking it would just be a matter of them meeting their proficiency level for the proficiency on the standards, would
Okay.
then contribute to successful documentation of having met this benchmark.
I was always curious, I don't know how you would do it, actually, because if you're looking at the whole school, you're probably looking at that 2-semester class, but yet Project I, you could start out in pre-algebra, and then all of a sudden February go into Algebra 1. And
Right.
I'm also sure if this really picks up on that, so maybe
Mhm.
I'm suggesting possibly that maybe these are a bit higher than what we can capture.
Mhm.
But it
I'm
certainly
making
would-
a note, yeah.
If that was the case, of course, it's wishful thinking, but if that was the case, that should certainly be a plug for the project-based learning, if that was captured somehow. I'm just not sure how you would do that, because it's so individually driven, so.
So those students are, I will definitely double check and follow up on the statistics that are in that number, but those Project I students are identified as algebra students when they move to algebra, so
Okay.
you should be able to access it, but
I
I'll,
was trying to look for ways to, I thought that was a pretty successful program, that Project I, and any data that would support that further, would be interesting to see. But
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, sure. Okay, so in a minute, I'll talk about some of the very focused strategic actions that we are doing to have an impact on our student goals. And again, our student goals are having our students be academically literate, meaningfully engaged, and college and career ready. That yellow hat on the right there does represent that college and career readiness goal, and we hope and plan for 100% of our students to exit our system with a plan for post-high school engagement, whatever that will be for them, including educational plans engaged in a 4-year, a 2-year, or even military educational program. With that, across the system, it's been really, I think, very exciting that we do have our key performance objective system-wide related to growth and achievement in reading. As a result of that, 80%, we've made a commitment that 80% of our professional development across the system would focus on literacy development. So we have the implementation of our revised literacy units, which are even more carefully aligned to the Common Core standards across grades K through 8 this year. We have the ACT alignment of assessment and instruction. Dr. Thompson mentioned earlier how the high school in particular is really examining what do those problem types and expectations look like on the ACT, and then how can we be embedding that across the instruction that's taking place all throughout the year. We have AVID, which has been presented to the board on a separate occasion, but that really is, again, AVID standing for the advancement via individual determination, but that really places a focus and an emphasis on students who traditionally might be underrepresented in college, accessing those students in high school early and helping them build and develop the strategies for study and success to really prepare them for college, so they feel that that is an option for them. The response to intervention, RTI, we continue this year to roll out the RTI initiative more deeply this year, and I know that Ted will be speaking to that in a little bit. But we're very pleased with the progress to date and some of the impact we're seeing of those efforts. And again, they will continue. At the school level, all teachers are setting literacy student learning objectives or goals specifically targeted towards helping specific student populations within their classroom meet benchmarks and reach the desired achievement. And finally, special education students, all of them are setting literacy goals for themselves this year, and that is something new as well. So all of these things, again, aligned on our focus on literacy development.
So any overall questions?
With that,
from the board?
yes.
I've got one on the elementary.
Sure. Yes.
Actually, it's for, in general. I want to, so I'm not sure who can best respond. So I'm looking at the WKC, so going 3 years back, 4 years back, WKC, year or two ago, we raised the bar. We have now Smarter Curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yet to even show up on a report card. So all the data that we have for all of our schools, I guess, what do we, on the metrics, you know, as far as student achievement, student growth, closing the gaps, on track, post-secondary readiness, you know, 3rd grade, 8th grade. How are we using this, I guess, for, or can we? I mean, does it change too often? I mean, how do we give feedback to schools that, from the meets to the significantly exceeds? Are we able to pull out best practices at one school and apply it to other schools? Or is that possible? I'm trying to understand how you would, as a district, grab a hold of this data, look at, is there a reason there's a score of significantly exceeds here, but not here? I'm just trying to understand that. Do you offer anything, or I don't?
That is a great question. And I kind of heard 2 things there. One, how does all this relate, and how can we use it as we know the Smarter Balanced is coming, and those results are going to look different. Was that one? Yeah. And the other one, how are we maybe learning from each other where we're seeing the successes and using that to maybe benefit other buildings as well?
Maybe my first one was just a comment, because I find it hard for administrators to use. I mean, is the data, I guess I'm looking for, is the data fine across the board and you can use that? Or are these reports, interpretations that are just, you know, one year you find a gap, and then you try to apply it, only to find out that you're being measured differently, or is the measurement the same? It's just an interpretation. I'm trying to follow that.
I don't think we use like WKC. It's so lagging that I don't know that we're use that as much to really drive our instructional decisions. That's really where we're using discovery education, because we can do the assessment and then immediately we have the results. So it's really actionable. I think we're kind of waiting to see what the data looks like from Smarter Balance. So let's really get a handle on how different it actually is. But it's really it's so at least historically it's been lagging. Now it's going to be less so now as well. I mean, so that's also going to be a little bit more actionable than it's been in the past. So I think we are kind of a little bit of a wait and see, because we're not even sure exactly what it looks like yet. I mean, we're kind of waiting.
And it is summative. So one way we've structured ourselves so that we can utilize the data better is our leadership team meetings once a month, our strategic meetings. We spend 3 hours as a team and we're focused around the data. So for instance, next week, building principals will come with, what's your goal for literacy, for instance, and what evidence do you have that you're making an impact? So like Ted said, it's not going to be that they're going to take the WKCE from the fall of 2013. They're going to look at either DE reports, they're going to look at Teachers College book levels, they're going to look at other data that is more ongoing progress. And so that is a monthly meeting, and it's all about, and the focus is on data. And so also then principals take that down, and they have 3 data summits with their staff as well. And they look at data that's beyond just the summative WKCE, but all the indicators along the way, the progress monitoring.
So do we expect next year to have the same, or do we know, is the DPI going to publish the same report, but use what data will they use?
They'll use Smarter Balance.
Yeah. So they'll use Smarter Balance. So we'll have something similar to this, and
the
we'll
report
publish
card.
it.
That's what we anticipate.
What really pops into my mind on this whole thing is really a planning. I'm thinking, okay, as these are beginning to be published now by the DPI, you're going to see people pick and choose, regionally in Muskegon where they want to, because people come here 80% of the time, they look at K-5, without a doubt. So I'm just thinking of a way to address that. Like maybe these scores aren't really what they should be looking at, I don't know. Because after looking at this and listening to the presentation, it seems to me that our curriculum is really built on something else, right? Or you're looking, or when you look to adjust the curriculum, it's based on the discovery and other types of assessments, not necessarily this now because it's gone.
The curriculum is based on the standards, so we unpack the standards and then we build the curriculum. What we use the data to do is to look at where we need to improve our instructional practices. And so we still operate within that same solid curriculum, but where do we need to, in instruction, really enhance engagement, really enhance individualized learning, differentiation, things of that nature that really get closing some of those conceptual understanding gaps or whatever for our students. Where the Smarter Balance is going to help us next year, because we won't have trend data on that, but what we will have is comparative data. Like how do we sit amongst our peers in the quality of instruction we provide in the areas of reading and math. So, and then from that macro data, we'll use our internal data, the micro data, to say, okay, this is where now we need to improve our instructional practices within that curricular framework. Does that make sense?
I think it does. We're still going to use, from what I heard, the discovery assessments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's other assessments that we're
Right.
using to adjust our teaching practices. I understand that whatever our standards are, our curriculum is at the minimum designed to that, and we exceed that. I was trying to grasp how useful this is to administrators. I mean, if it's changing all the time. And I mean, that's gotta be crazy. And then, I mean, or do you simply have a different brand of assessments that we currently use, I'm just not aware of, that you feel is better
Well,
indicator of
so we definitely have to use this as one of our major assessment pieces to inform how successful our students are. But for example, if you look at the pathways to college and career readiness, we do have some other assessments on there, like the Teachers College book level, or the Discovery Education performance. And so, yes, it's a balance. But you're right, there will be, as much as we don't want to be surprised by what we see on the Smarter Balance, because we've been aligning our instruction towards the standards that are expected at every grade level. We've got those NAEPI's WKCE scores. The fact is, when spring rolls around, you know,
yeah, I'm not looking for a
to be
specific
seen, yeah.
answer. Thank you. I think, the whole reason this came to light was, I sit on our plan commission for Muskegon. And this is start, I, for the first time, had the developers actually point to these online.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm thinking people are going to start to use these as tools.
And you raise a good point that any school is more than that one school report card score. Absolutely. There's a lot more to dig into.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But at least with the report card score, though, it is factoring in a number of different things. So in some ways, it's fairer than just a WKCE score, because you're looking at achievement, you're looking at a number of factors. But I think they all serve different purposes. A Discovery Ed assessment, we can look at individual standards for an individual student to know that's specifically what they're getting and what they're still struggling with. It's that kind of drill down that we're able to do, which we can't do with other kinds of assessments. So it is a lot. It's a lot of change, but they're all helpful, and they all give us a little bit of different light in how we're performing. They all have value, though. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we move into the last two items, which will be facilitated by Ted, I do have tickets that I'm sending around, and this is from the Taher Food Service. On Friday, October 17th, the Food Service Department will be hosting a special guest chef for lunch. A Muskego graduate and master chef contestant, Jordan Kaminsky, will be coming to us with them. Yeah, did you see it?
I did.
So Jordan graduated from the high school in 2013. And while Jordan was in middle school and high school, he enjoyed the days that the chef would visit and offer different meals for students. And Jordan's interest in the chef made meals turned into a lifelong passion for him. And so now he's cooking healthy meals for himself, his family, and actually looking to make that his profession. So Jordan tried out for the Master Chef show in Chicago with a soy glazed sea bass recipe. And on Friday, October 17th, he will be sharing a version of this recipe with us using chicken instead of sea bass. And then
Substitution.
Yeah.
So although Jordan did not win the Master Chef competition, he learned a tremendous amount about cooking from the professional chefs on the program. And we are honored that he will be sharing his skills and passion for cooking with us. And so the ticket is to invite you to come and join the
Friday of Homecoming.
Yes.
I'm sure those of us with high school-age children would just be loud.
They would love
seeing
to
you
see
show
you
up.
there.
I'm going to have to show up.
Well, I am, but I absolutely would plan on it.
You could choose the A lunch instead if you wanted to. But
No, I'm going to find out when he's got lunch.
yeah, sure.
Show up.
Absolutely.
At the high school. Yes. So.
Oh.
So now, Ted, you have the next two superintendent report items. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one, there's not a slide for it. It's just October is Bullying Awareness Month, and it really is an opportunity for our schools to, it's actually, in most of our schools, our opportunity for our teachers and pupil services staff to work together, to go into classrooms to really raise awareness about bullying prevention through a variety of lessons and other kinds of activities that go on within the building. This year, all of our schools are also going to be engaging in Unity Day activities, which is Wear Orange for Unity Day on October 22nd. So again, it's just another opportunity to kind of raise some awareness about the issue of bullying and show our unity. And so on your agenda, there are also a variety of websites for not only school staff, but also for parents who are interested in learning more about how they can become involved as well.
Thank you.
All right. So last but not least, I'm going to spend a few minutes tonight talking about our recently completed, and I say completed, but they're always kind of in revision, I guess, RTI intervention framework documents for reading and math. And so to quickly, just a really quick review. So RTI has 3 main pillars. So the first pillar is universal screening. And that's where we screen all students for the purpose of identifying as early as possible those students who may require additional support for struggling students, or for students on the higher end, those students who may need additional challenges. So it's universal screening. So that's one pillar. The second are tiered interventions for those students identified by the universal screening team. And by tiered interventions, I mean that we provide interventions at a level of intensity that's appropriate to meet the needs of individual students. And this ranges from interventions being provided within the regular education setting by the classroom teacher to really specific individualized interventions of what we call the Tier 3 level. And third is progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is the process that we use to check in on a very regular basis, in fact a weekly basis, to see how students in intervention are performing. So time doesn't go by in intervention where students are not making progress and we don't know about it. So those are the 3 pillars, and I realized as I was putting this together, when you distill it down to those 3 parts, it doesn't sound like much, but in fact it really is. It's a huge. I believe it really is a vehicle by which we are going to help move all students forward in the district, because it's doing all of the things that we've talked about for years, but only now really have the technology and capability to do, which is, identify students early, use data, check in on, provide intervention, check in on it regularly, make adjustments as needed. Okay, Dawn, you can flip the slide. So if you're following along in your Chromebooks, there are, I deleted a few slides just to kind of tighten things up a little bit. So if something doesn't seem quite, it seems a little askew from what I'm talking about, just probably forward to the next slide. This is an example. What you're seeing here is an example of an overall summary of the RTI framework at the kindergarten level for the area of reading. And what I've included in your packet, actually, are the framework documents for kindergarten through 8th grade, with high school documents that are going to be completed in the next couple of weeks. Let's take a closer look at these documents. So, Dawn, you can click the next one. So while the focus of RTI can become about interventions and assessments, it is the most critical component to actualize every student learning, growing, and succeeding is a highly impactful Tier 1 instruction. When I say Tier 1, or if I say universal, just to be clear, what I'm talking about is instruction that's provided in the regular education classroom by the classroom teacher. The examples provided on this slide correspond to the top row of the intervention framework document. And so what you see here is the instructional resource that we use at a given level at Tier 1, as well as the expected level of proficiency corresponding to our universal screening tools. So Tier 1 kindergarten, Stepping Stones is the instructional resource, and if we look at PALS, for proficiency, well, actually, we'd look at Stepping Stones fact fluency. It gives the rating at which we would expect the student to be performing. And so the example, the first one that you see is kindergarten, but we have these in reading and math in K through 8th grade. Dawn, you can flip the slide. If you move down to the next set of boxes, you'll see Tier 2 indicators. Tier 2 indicators refers to 2 things: the assessments administered and the level at which we would consider a student for a Tier 2 intervention. You'll notice that for any student who scores below the 30th percentile on what we call our primary universal screener, and that's Discovery Education for students who are in 1st through 8th grade, we administer a secondary independent standardized assessment, which is AIMSweb. And not every district does this, but we utilize this secondary measure because we really want to be careful about who we're putting in intervention. And we recognize that sometimes students just have an off day. They don't do well on one particular test. And so if they score below the 30th percentile on the first one, then they're administered a second one, which is it's still reliable and valid, but it's just a quicker assessment. Other pieces of data that are shared during universal screening meetings include data such as classroom assessments, running records, attendance, behavior data. So we try to look at a variety of sources, not just standardized kind of assessments, but also assessments that are conducted within the regular classroom when we're making those decisions. Okay. So listed on this slide are our current district-approved Tier 2 interventions. Now, what's different about Muskego from some other districts is that other districts, you'll see that they have many, many, many interventions listed. But our position has been that we actually want to have as few interventions as we absolutely need to get the job done. And the reason for that really is that anytime we add even a single intervention, we're adding cost and we're adding complexity to keep it all kind of running it together. So the intent, if we want RTI to work well, we need to make sure that we have people that are highly trained, that are trained annually. And so adding even one intervention to this adds a whole training component. It adds, we have to develop a fidelity monitoring process for it. We have to track everybody who's been trained. We have to pay for the materials, which is very expensive, any reproducibles. So we have, I would say, kind of a minimalistic sort of intervention menu right now. Now, that isn't to say that we won't add additional interventions, because we certainly, in fact, we are looking at probably adding it in a particular area, but it's because the data is indicating to us that, you know, we seem to have, our current interventions aren't meeting this particular need. So we really follow the data with regard to where we would need to add interventions. We don't just add them just for the sake of adding more interventions. Okay, Don? So if you move down, if you're looking at the sheet, you move down to the next set of boxes, you'll see a number of columns. The first includes the intervention tier. So the examples here, these are Tier 2 interventions. So these are interventions then that for students who've been recommended for that next level. The name of the intervention and the maximum number of students in the intervention group, that's in that first column. The second lists the areas of intervention and specifies the specific areas that the intervention is designed to positively impact. And it also corresponds to, with specific learning disabilities, we have certain areas that we have to look at, and these areas correspond with specific learning disabilities criteria. In the third column, you'll see listed the interventionist, and this specifies who is qualified or responsible for delivering the intervention. Fourth column is the frequency and duration of the intervention. So this specifies how many days per week and for how many minutes that the intervention would need to be delivered to, again, meet that level of fidelity where we say we're delivering it as it is intended to be delivered so that it's going to have an impact. And then last, the column refers to our progress monitoring and how frequently we do that and what tool we use. Okay, Don? Down further, there's a reference to something called a mid-cycle check-in. In addition to universal screening meetings, which occur 3 times a year, this past year we added we added 2 meetings called mid-cycle check-ins. The purpose of a mid-cycle check-in is to review the data of students who are in intervention. Universal screening teams, it's reviewing the data of all students. Mid-cycle check-ins, it's specific to students who are in intervention, so we can track how those students are performing. If we find that a student is not making the progress that we would expect them to make, we go through a process of examining first, did we set the goal properly? So we don't assume that something isn't working. Kind of go back and we go through a little checklist. Did we set the proper goal? Has the intervention been administered with fidelity? So we look back through our fidelity logs. Is the data accurate? Did someone just key in the wrong data? And then finally, if all those things check out, then we would have a conversation about whether it's time to look at a more intensive intervention. And if it is determined that the intervention is not meeting the needs of that particular student, then we would consider moving to a Tier 3 intervention. Okay? So our expectation is that a minimum of 80% of students who receive a Tier 2 intervention will make significant gap closing gains. There are, however, a small number of students who will require a more intensive level of support. So when we chose our Tier 2 interventions, we were very careful and thoughtful about choosing interventions that would really impact a variety of areas to cover the most ground, but with the understanding of there may be more specific need in particular areas that we would have to go to a Tier 3 intervention for. So Tier 3 interventions are provided to that top 1 to 3% of students who don't respond favorably to the Tier 2 intervention. And they're delivered by our most highly trained staff. So our reading specialists deliver the reading interventions, and our math coaches deliver the math interventions. These interventions take two forms. One, some of them, like Do the Math Now, Wilson, are scripted kinds of interventions that you're really following a protocol, but our early reading intervention, individualized reading instruction, Dreambox, Ascend, those are tools that we're really counting on our experts who are just the most knowledgeable about instruction in those areas to use available resources to meet the individual needs of the student. So in this slide, this is an example of some Tier 3 interventions. Similar to Tier 2, it identifies who is qualified to provide the intervention, the frequency, duration of the intervention, progress monitoring, assessment tool frequency. Okay, go on, Don. Thanks. So in addition to specific criteria that a student would, that we would look at meeting for placing a student in intervention, we've also developed criteria for exiting students from intervention. And of all the things that I thought would be challenging to come to agreement on, dismissal was the one that we really struggled with as a team. Districts go different ways on this. Some districts set a very low threshold, so like a 25th percentile. My concern is, so the advantage of dismissing at 25th percentile is you can sort of cycle more students through your intervention. You can serve more students. My concern with dismissing at 25th percentile is you may cycle them out, but I'm afraid we're going to be cycling back in again. And so I felt pretty strong that we were going to commit to these students, and we were going to provide intervention till they were at a point at which we felt as though they would be able to fly on their own, and we would feel very confident that they would not be returning to us, or that it would be a very, very low percentage of students. So we ended up setting it at the 40th percentile. In addition, so the purpose of creating this document was really, we're trying to get as clear and as tight as possible with our entire staff to really understand what the RTI framework looks like, to ensure that we're really doing it as it's meant to be done. If it's going to work, if it's going to provide the outcomes that we believe and that I know it can, it means we have to be tight on that, which is why this first document was developed. This second document that we have about 90% done it's a RTI roles and responsibilities document. What this document does is it breaks down every major task within RTI and specifies who or whom, if it's a team, are responsible to ensure that the task takes place at a high level. And so we've taken some time to make sure that everybody within RTI knows what their roles and responsibilities are, and they know what it means to do each particular job at a high level. And so this is just kind of articulating that. Next steps, significant next step within our RTI system within the district is the completion of our district RTI handbook. And obviously these are all components that will go into it. A small team and I are currently in the process of working on it now. But we'll be articulating all of these processes, but then also, having processes with regard to regularly reviewing the effectiveness of our interventions, tracking students who've been dismissed over time to evaluate longer-term outcomes. So if we're dismissing them at the 40th percentile, are they in fact continuing to be successful in our regular education curriculum? But we'd also look at data with 30%. Are they equally successful? Also, the process for evaluating the need for additional interventions, as well as evaluating the interventions that are kind of within that pool that we decide to figure out which ones are the best that we can use within our district. And finally, the next steps, fidelity monitoring. It's a process that we're continuing to develop. adoption of a common universal screening template, which is automatically populated. A lot of the work that we do with the data collection now is manually pulled, and so we're moving toward having that automatically populated, which is going to help on a variety of fronts. It'll be a time saver. It also will help ensure that we don't have errors. Investigating interventions that are beyond reading and math, so also including writing, is another area. Pilot testing ION, which is a replacement of SIMS. If you remember, SIMS is kind of our data, I don't know what you would call it. It's kind of a place where students who are in intervention, we sort of track their progress, enter information, and so we have, so we're looking at another piece of software that would help do that in a much more efficient way. And then beyond this year, so these are things that we're working on for this year. Beyond this year, really looking at how we can engage parents to help support their student who's in intervention. We know that parents are kind of a underutilized resource, and so we have to figure out how we're going to work with those parents. I know for when my son was struggling, no, it's on camera, I hope he doesn't see that, but he was struggling for a while, and I went to the teacher, I'm like, I need, help me to know what to do with my son, and he gave me a number of different things, and it was just so beneficial, and I'm in education, and so I just know that if we really work with parents, we're going to just see that much more benefit and that much more engagement. And then also at some point moving, this is all academically focused, but there's also a side of the triangle that focuses on behavior. It's kind of a similar process for behavior as well. So it's really exciting work. It's a lot of work, but it's really exciting, and we're I look forward to presenting our assessment, or our intervention data to you in January, February to show you how effective that our interventions are being with students. And so there's no surprise to me when we're starting to see our data improving. We're doing I think some very targeted things, and then with RTI as well, we're also providing those interventions earlier so that we can get to those students before they have to experience years of failure. So I know I threw a lot out there kind of at one time, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I just want to thank you, Ted, for your work not only in preparing this, but also the ongoing work to get RTI not only off the ground, but very organized, very systematic, methodical, and the team of people that you bring along with you and really shared leadership through that process has been tremendous. So thank you on behalf of the students, the staff, and the district as a whole. Appreciate it. Okay, so that concludes finally the superintendent's report. Thank you.
One moment, because I got logged out.
Well, and actually, I can just share, Ted mentioned the parent component of it, and through our strategic planning, that was an area that we identified as something that we do need to focus in on. So last year, we started a parent advisory team, and Ted and I co-facilitate that team. And we had probably 12 parents involved last year, maybe 6 to 8 showed up every time that we met. This year, much larger. We have nearly 40 plus parents interested, and we have a range, a lot more high school, which was great. And we had about 35 probably show up the first meeting, and just great. It's just wonderful because, again, to get that out there, to learn from one another is just a tremendous opportunity. So thanks also for that. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on, President's report will be fairly brief. Quickly, this month, everyone, I believe, gets school news at home, although I didn't get my copy yet that I'm aware of. But within it is, if you remember a couple months ago, I mentioned that I nominated Impro as a partner business within the community, and there's a nice little article talking about them and what they've all done for us. So if you get a chance, you can pick that up and read it. And the other thing is just short, is to thank you all. It is School Board Appreciation Week, so I am just extending my appreciation to all the work that you guys all do here. So, moving on, board member reports. Anyone? Anyone? Hearing none. Student representation. Finally. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
I'm so sick right now, so I was like, didn't want to Good thing I didn't have as bad as before. I was like all.
Could you stand in front of the microphone so those people at home can hear all the wonderful information you're going to share with us?
Who?
People at home watching. You're on
Can
TV.
they hear me?
National broadcast.
Oh, sweet. Am I on TV?
Well, national,
CNN.
meaning the internet.
Yes.
It's national.
Okay, so I'm going to start out by bragging a little bit about one of my friends and our cross-country team. Alex Erickson was voted Athlete of the Week by Journal Sentinel. The article read, the senior beat a field that included returning state qualifiers Scott Seymour of Kenosha Bradford and Alex Martinez of Lake Geneva Badger to win the Muskego Warrior Invitational on September 27th with a time of 16 minutes and 10 seconds. And I was at the meet and I watched them, and that is 3 miles and 16 minutes, which is about my mile, so I was pretty amazed. And I watched Alex lead the team as one of their captains, and I thought that he did an amazing job, and he's a very good athletic leader that we should all be proud of. But unfortunately, our football team lost their first game, and they lost to Catholic Memorial at home last weekend, 28-35. And I've heard from the boys this week that we have a pretty good chance at Arrowhead this week. I'm really excited.
Do they have some sort of transportation going this week for students
Oh,
that
the
want
party
to go?
or the party bus?
The party bus?
Fan
I think it's called the fan bus. But
Yeah.
And it's free this week.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. We're taking a car. Because I didn't know.
You'll have your fan car.
Yeah, fan car. We're going to put like flags on the sides. And the girls varsity volleyball last team beat Waukesha North 3-0, and the boys varsity volleyball team beat Kettle Moraine at home last Thursday, and they ended up winning 3-0, and they had the best fan section turnout of the year so far. And Coach Arbinger brought out the whole fan section over for like the after-match speech, and he was telling us that we were all like amazing and that we're all good warriors for coming, and it was really fun. And also, after that game, Matt Peterson was nominated for Boys Volleyball Player of the Week by WSN Sports. And I don't think that he won that, though.
He won it. He ran
Oh, he
away with
did?
it. Yeah, he had like almost 1,000 votes, and the next place was like 600.
Yeah.
So he got a lot.
Oh, I didn't ask him. I didn't know how to find it. I'm on his website. The girls swim and dive team participated in the Susan G. Komen Race for a Cure last weekend and met their goal of raising $1,000. And Mr. Schrader's daughter, Lauren, was Warrior of the Week.
Oh, cool.
So that was pretty exciting. And now it's time to brag about my sport, Student Council, because I feel that we have done so much lately for homecoming. We are like going crazy, but I'm so excited. We are starting ticket sales tomorrow, and our theme, Roaring 20s, has inspired exec board to purchase a cardboard cutout 1920s car to take pictures at homecoming, and I'm really excited about that. And we got our t-shirts and our tickets, and they're black with gold writing on them, and I just cannot wait for homecoming to be over. And our school is definitely in full warrior effect right now, is what my teacher said, because we are all doing something to get ready for homecoming week sports, or, of course, make time for our homework.
That's good.
And that's it.
Any questions for Kayla?
Any questions?
Nope.
You look like you have a question.
He does look like it.
I'll spare you. I know you're not feeling well, or you're recovering, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Feel better.
At this point, we are at public forum. Anyone would like to address the board on any operational issues? Please step forward. Going once, twice. Moving on, thank you. Under resolution action items, under 7A, donations.
Motion to accept the following donations with thanks. For Muskego Elementary Schools, from Target Take Charge of Education, $1,154.40. For Bay Lane Middle School, from, again, Target Take Charge of Education, $977.01. For the district, from Muskego Youth Football, $3,000 for Johnson Field number 2 maintenance. And for Muskego High School, from the Friends of MHS Music Makers, $2,250 for band.
Good. Get a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on, under discussion items, 2014-2015 budget. Ms. Kelly.
This is just an update that we will be posting the annual meeting notice in the newspaper over the next week or so. There'll be 2 postings. The annual meeting booklet is almost complete. We're going to be reviewing the final draft this week, and we'll be going out, and we'll also be doing an update. And the board wanted an update on the end of the year from 13-14 where we were with fund balance, and we'll do that at the regular meeting on October 27th.
All right.
Annual meeting is October 27th at the high school. PC.
Any questions for Julie? All right, thank you. Discussion items 8B, Board Docs 6-month review.
Hello, everyone. In the agenda item, you'll see a bit of an update, and that is because the survey results were coming in yet today. And so I did share 2 attachments, and they are just screenshots, basically images of summaries. So you can click on those and zoom in, but otherwise I have kind of summarized the top responses for the admin and board secretary survey, which was 1 complete survey. You notice that centralized online agenda and editing and viewing 100% agreed that that was a very useful tool or beneficial tool. Uploading documents and the paperless final agenda. Those all received 100% of everyone taking the survey agreed that those were beneficial. On the board side, we have 100% for the top 2, which is preparedness for meetings, paperless final agenda, and then the variety of access on multiple devices was 83%, the next highest. If you notice in the attachments, and again, you can zoom in by hitting the plus sign to get in a little closer. I ended up putting a test in each one to make sure they were operational, and then I couldn't remove that. So that's why you'll see 8 out of 8 respondents on, say, the administrative survey. That's technically 100%. So the results would not let me pull out a response. So technically, 8 respondents for the administrative survey, and then 6 respondents for the board survey. And again, 6 out of 6 would be 100%, of course. So a lot of the narrative responses are also included in there. And what came through on the administrative side was the workflow efficiencies and ease of use. There's also a comment on adding agenda items could become more efficient if there was a suggestion. And someone also commented, seems very user-friendly once you get a feel for the product. On the board side, and again, not to reiterate every single comment, but some of the highlights was that it was, I like the ability to navigate through the agenda items quickly. People felt that the attached documents were very helpful as a view. And also someone made a comment to please keep these in PDF format. And then a very unanimous comment was about online voting and where we stand with that, alongside making sure that administratively we continue to use the public content, the administrative content, and executive content areas appropriately so that documents are showing up in the right spots. I believe a goal of that, of course, is transparency and, of course, keeping things in the right areas. So I believe we've had some great response, and the use has certainly been beneficial. I can only speak from the administrative side, and again, with some of our other administrative teams. I feel that the results of the survey from board members were, again, about a variety of access to the transparency and preparedness for meetings, but certainly open to a discussion. When we originally approved, we wanted a 6-month window of time. We worked that out with the company, that if we did want to part ways, we certainly could. But at the same time, we decided to, again, at this point, go 6 months and then make that choice. 3 quick comments, then I'll finish talking. Number 1, the Wisconsin Association of School Boards did endorse this product as their e-governance solution. As a result of that endorsement, the cost of the product, which they called non-negotiable originally, dropped to $2,000. So originally that was $12,000, and now it's down to $10,000. So I guess it's helpful to have that amount of reduction. And then also Neola, who is our policy vendor, has partnered with Board Docs to integrate the Neola policies into Board Docs. So that is something, of course, that we could take advantage of as well. So those are 3 things within our 6-month window that have actually changed since we started the pilot. So I don't know if there are any questions or thoughts about that.
Dean, you look like you had something on your mind.
Why do you say that, Rick?
Because you're looking over me like, when can I talk? No?
No, I didn't complete the survey. I didn't think that the survey purpose was very guided. I thought the questions were very guided. My only comment is that it seems neat, but I don't think it's worth the money. And I still haven't seen what we are getting in the full board docs version that we're using as compared to the board docs, which costs us significantly less money.
What were the major differences? I can't remember. It's been a while.
I can look it up. Sorry. There's actually a matrix that has the division. Sorry, I don't have that up.
From the, I mean, just my impressions of using the product. I like the idea of having something online. Actually, I've gotten positive. There are a couple people have actually mentioned in talking. No one's actually called me on this and said this is great. But few people I've talked to actually do like having the public part online where they can pull up the docs and look at stuff and be able to see things. So from the transparency standpoint, I do like that. I would agree that the implementation of it's been, you know, a little difficult at times. The voting is useless in my mind. It's, you know, it's, I guess if not this, what? It's, I wouldn't want to go back to what we were doing. I could say that, but I'm not sure if I'm completely sold on, is this the solution? You know, kind of torn. This wasn't in place when you started, was it? So
No, so
you went through the transition.
I did go through the transition, and you know, I'm a little hung up on the cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for what we're getting, but to me, this is light years ahead of what we had. So when I first got here and I only had a couple of months of the old system, for me it was very difficult, especially as a new board member, trying to figure out where the heck everything was in a one big PDF, right? And it's not as easy to navigate through. Here, it's very easy to be able to pick where I need to go to archive things like that. To Dean's point, and I guess yours as well, is this the solution for what it costs? I don't know, but I don't want to go back to what we had, because what we had was just very difficult and very cumbersome, and it was just hard to utilize. So that's my comment from the very short window of time I had to use the old system.
Well, Chris, you had the opportunity of, you only use this, so you didn't go through what we had done previously. So this is all you've known. But I know I myself and you do, because you're on the planning commission, and I sit on a board in the city, and they use a software product. I like this much better than what the city uses, from my standpoint. I'm not sure what your opinion is on that, as far as what other products are out there, but.
Yeah, I think the necessity is similar to what you're describing, where it's just a massive PDF. And though I do have all my 50 links to every document I need to, what was nice, you know, not to say this is a permanent, but what was nice for the first time tonight, we were able to go back and find a document. And
that was nice.
And I don't know, what version are we at now? Is it Light or Pro?
We're on Pro.
Okay. I don't know if Light gives you the same thing. One thing is very hard to in a good governance is document management. And the fact that you can go back and you can so something is archived and you can go back and pull it out, whether this is the solution or not, is certainly less burden on staff to have to be here. And you can see how easy it was to just, here I'm asking a question and someone else didn't read. Where, you know, Julie we were able to go back and pull that information up, and boom, and we were able to move on. I think under the PDF way you're struggling, trying to search, and then you've got to go back. How would we have found this?
We wouldn't have.
Yeah, so, that may have delayed action on something that was, I don't know, and I certainly don't know, cost is always an issue. I don't know if the same thing is available under the light. The only other way I know how to do this is through like a CWS, more of a Googly type document management, and I don't. So I thought I like it. But kind of getting Dean's point, I don't know if the light version can produce the same thing.
Can I just ask a quick question, just because I don't see the things that happen before we get to the board meeting. And I don't know if you can quantify this, but from a cost savings perspective, from the sheer amount of time that it saves staff to prep for a meeting, can you put a number to that? Can you hazard a guess to, is it hours saved, or is it just a little bit of time? It would help me try to justify some of the costs.
Right now, it takes more time.
Actually, it's
No, I
far
think
less.
really-
It's far less. It's amazing how, and it took us a little while to figure it out and what administrative rules we could give to one another. And really what happened is we ended up opening it up to have more people be able to add to the document, and then it's incredibly efficient from a standpoint of creating documents, uploading them, having them right there, aligned to each agenda item. It was just not possible. You make one change in a PDF, you have to change the entire PDF, or you wouldn't be able to go back to a board meeting necessarily online, especially, and know that these were all the documents that were provided. Whereas, like, for instance, there are times where we don't have budget information right on Thursday, but Julie will make a note saying, we'll get something to you on Friday. That can be uploaded then on Monday, and it's there. It's all together. So it's been incredibly efficient. It was a rough start, no doubt, no doubt. And I think also the whole voting, we have to come around again. But Tony, why don't you share the difference between the light and the...
Sure. So I put, by the way, I just dropped into the agenda a link to the matrix that gives you that exact information. So if you reload, just click off of it and click back on it. You'll be able to click here, and you'll see a hyperlink to that matrix that compares the light version to the Pro. And I think some of the things that rise to the top correlating to our survey results, one of them is that we cannot have a customizable public, administrative, and executive agenda. It wouldn't be something that you could split out. Another one is the linking to policy, which again I just mentioned is something that would hopefully be a nice partnership between Neola and Board Docs. We wouldn't be able to take advantage of that through the light version. And
did anybody get into that? Was anybody able to up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I'm just having an issue. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
And it's a very long list, and I don't want to keep trying to cut through every single part of it. A lot of it comes down to customization, and I'd say a lot of it, as we just discussed, was that workflow process behind the scenes. As a board, you do a lot of interfacing with it kind of on that front end, whereas the information is presented to you, where that information that we call and put together for you, that is the workflow process that we really take advantage of as Pro versions. And again, to Kelly and Julie's testament, that is something that has really saved us some time, and more than anything, being able to engage others in that process. So Ted and Kari, who might not normally be part of that process directly, will, of course, be able to upload their documents into the system. And we can have approval trees for it as well, so that can rise to an approval process from Dar and or Kelly or another supervisor. So again, those people can put in, but it doesn't necessarily become part of that agenda until there's an approval process that comes with it. And I know that is very much a Pro version option, whereas the light doesn't have it either. I agree that I'd love to have the light for the less expensive amount, but I know we do strip away a few things. The other part is if we go back to what I consider to be Board Docs setting their own price, we did examine another company, and when we did that before, and the comparison was kind of night and day. That product would have been less expensive overall, but still not nearly the same quality and interface, because I think we all can agree that if the interface is easy to use, we're more likely to use all the features. So in this case, I know that comparing those two head-to-head, we certainly had an advantage. And like I said, if you look through the matrix, there is quite a bit. Some of them are irrelevant, but many of them are useful options for us.
And the searching minutes feature is gone in the light version.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing, part of it is, you know, this isn't just about us board, it's about staff getting information into it, and if it is creating those kind of efficiencies, I mean, we definitely have to take that into consideration as what we're making for our decisions on this. One thing offhand, you know, not necessarily related to this, it is related, but it seems to have been a little better the last month or so, but the technology that's provided for the board to access it needs to be consistent and, you know, powered up and all that. Because I know we went through months of frustration. I bring my own, so it's not an issue for me, but many board members come here and want to be using the technology here, and we have to have something here that's going to be consistent and it's not going to die halfway through the meeting and all that stuff. So something to consider on that.
Okay.
How without getting too far into the technical end of it, like tonight on the presentation I was under for the superintendent's report, there's a lot of PDF or PowerPoints that were uploaded into here. How are we having that done? Because the quality from our standpoint, when we get it, if I want to blow something up, like I'm looking at it on a smaller screen, so sometimes I want to blow up a chart and look at it, it looks like a scanned document versus you know, a PDF that was produced from within PowerPoint and uploaded in, which would be scalable type and everything else. It seems like these were actually printed out and rescanned and dropped in. And if that's the case, we should probably get some consistencies on how we're going to be uploading documents, because.
And just if you don't mind me asking, as I see that they are PDF, I'm able to Zoom on my device, but is it not allowing you to do that on an iPad? I mean,
well, you can tell it's a scan because it's showing see-through from the sheet behind it. So,
that should be something we'd be able to pull a PDF directly out of.
Right. There shouldn't be anything that we're producing anything on that you can't produce a PDF of. And the point that somebody had made as far as having a consistent format, and I think that format probably should be a PDF, is probably pretty good.
Yeah. And I do agree also to that point, if you don't mind me adding, having something that is converted to PDF electronically as opposed to scanned through a copy machine will allow it to be searchable.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah. Two different types of PDFs. Yes, definitely. What are you looking for tonight at this point? Just feedback, and we're going to bring this back for action in a future meeting, or?
Yes. The 27th is our meeting that we would take formal action on how to proceed.
I'll definitely echo that scanning thing, because when I get the email from DAR that says board packet, it launches a script that takes all that off into so I can read it wherever I am. And when it's a scanned one, or it can't,
doesn't process it.
It can't do it, so then I'm going to go back and.
Sure. Yeah. There might be some cases where that will still.
Okay, because it's a scan of it, I mean, it should be easy to just throw the
Well,
PDF.
you can actually just go to a file, print, and print it into a PDF without even printing it. Like,
Yeah, just
I think it's just education of the team to be able to do that.
Yeah, because that would help me out. I mean, just, that's the way I have my work routine, and it would be nice to, but I like it. It seems to export it fine if I do it. Just scan ones.
And there may be a few times where the documents were paper originals and we have to scan, but.
Tonight's youth options things is a good example where it has to be redacted. I understand on things like that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to echo kind of what Chris. One of the big advantages I do see of this is, you know, we all have busy schedules. This technology does allow me. Okay, I got 10 minutes here. I can pull this up on my phone. I can pull this up on an iPad. I can pull it up on a computer, wherever I'm at. I don't necessarily have to be lugging a packet of documents around and be able to say, you know, well, when I get a moment, I'll go through my packet. I can, you know, I grab 10 minutes here and grab 10 minutes there to be able to start going through and preparing for a meeting. It's helpful.
Great.
Any other feedback from you, either one of you?
No, I'd just be echoing pretty much what everybody else has said.
Nothing.
Okay. All right, I think we'll bring it back next meeting and probably have some more discussion on it and take action one way or another at that time. Is there anything anyone wants for the next meeting? If you could at least link a link that works. The differences between the light and yeah. So.
Oh, links not work.
No, it comes up as a blank page.
It worked for you, though, Gary?
For me, and
Yeah,
it got
it's
kicked
fair.
out, so.
Oh, then it got kicked out.
I
Okay.
got in, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
I'll verify it though for the next time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to further discussion items, item 8C, youth options request.
So this is a discussion item, and actually it is moving forward. If the board is okay to move it to action in D, that would be greatly appreciated. So just to remind the board as to the process, what happens is parents or students make requests for courses to take at technical college or university level. And then the guidance counseling staff and the administration go through a process that looks at whether or not the course is comparable to a course within our high school. And then if it is, if this is, then it would not be allowable. However, if it isn't similar to any of the courses that we offer, it is allowable under youth options. And there is an opportunity for parents to request for their students to have their books and materials paid for as well. And then if that does in fact happen, though the books become the property of the district. So they turn those in at the end. So, but that is part of the statute. So you'll see that, for instance, in maybe one or two of the requests that there might be multiple requests. Some are approved, some are not, based on that analysis that the guidance department and the administration go through to determine whether or not the course is comparable to something that we offer already. So, so there are a number of requests, and you'll see a theme again, which is very consistent with, in the past, the certified nursing assistant, the CNA. Lisa did look at whether or not it would be a better cost for us to offer that within our system, but there are some issues with that, and so that will be continued. We'll continue to explore that as an option, but I think at this point it did not appear to be cost effective, given the equipment and all of that type of thing.
So Kelly, could you remind me on the determination of whether the high school offers the course or not? In the, let's say the student wants a particular science course.
Yep.
And that particular science course is not offered. Is there anything under the statute that they have to have exhausted a sequence of science courses? No. Okay, as long as it's different. So we could have AP environmental science, but doesn't
Not
matter.
plant and
Right.
whatever, but then they do have to look, if there's 80% of it is similar, then
Right. But that's the only analysis.
that's the only analysis.
Okay.
So what is the purpose of the youth options program?
The purpose is to allow students to pursue rigorous courses beyond high schools. And really it's about some schools just not having a lot of opportunity for kids. And so the legislature has looked at ways to expand options for students. And so this is one of those options many, many years ago. So this is a program that's not new. But, it kind of fluctuates. There are times where there's some students who are interested in taking a lot of courses. But the general trend right now has been around that certified nursing assistant course.
So then these, on that first page of the memo, the courses that are listed with $6,124.50, that's the total of everything being requested below?
It's only the ones that are approved.
Okay.
So of the X amount that were requested, these are the ones that are being approved based on the analysis and recommended for the board to approve tonight.
How does that work with high school credit?
They indicate on the far right the number of high school credits.
And who decide, I mean, how,
That's also a process that the guidance in the high school.
now is that set up through statute on what we have to allow for high school credit or not?
I'm not sure. It's a good question.
If you could get me that
Sure.
information.
Mhm.
And is there any limit to what the course could be? I mean, just because it's not offered in high school, if it's not a high school level course, because it's a college level course, does it matter?
No.
So, because some of these are 200 level courses, right?
Mhm.
Which
So
is
as long as-
4 year in college courses.
Yes, and as long as the university will accept the student and accept the student to take those courses, that would be their deal.
And Bob, there's also no limit on where they can go.
So you could go to a private college, you could go to a public university, doesn't matter. It's the student's choice. It's kind of interesting, Dr. Thompson, that you mentioned that, a long time ago, right? The point probably was that maybe high schools didn't offer many AP courses, so there weren't many rigorous choices. Query as we go forward, and more high schools are offering rigorous courses, right, with rigorous testing requirements put in place. Does the impetus behind the program really ring true and hold true in that kind of a, evolving setting?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have an ethics course?
At the high school?
Yeah, no, I guess we would do. Oh, okay.
So when they check off comparable course offered, if it's a yes, we don't need
Accept it.
to accept it, right? Okay. So looking at the first one here, they've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 courses off that they've requested. I'm assuming they're not going to take all 11.
Well, since most of them are turned down,
And there's a second page.
Or was it turned down?
under the one, when
Where it
there's a
says yes.
where it says yes next to comparable.
Those are not moved forward.
Okay, so when we compare them, they're automatically, when it's checked there, it's automatically turned down.
Correct.
Okay,
But it's not recommended.
okay.
I think this is definitely an area that the state legislature is going to be taking another look at relatively soon, based on some of the comments Lisa made. So. Any other questions on this?
What's, the, CONC intro stats, and what's CONC on that? It's on the third page, I think.
The top one, it's a psycho.
It's a psychology course.
Conceptual introduction to statistics, maybe?
That'd be my guess.
It's a psychology course.
Well, that's the abbreviation
Yeah.
PSI, so that's not a guess.
Unless it's physical science.
So they would look at that course title, the course description, and then look at what do we offer in our either.
I'm just looking at the title. I understand the psych, college course number, but I would hope that we have a stats course in high school. But
We may,
definitely not.
but it might be different. It might be how,
Okay.
its application of
The
stats.
wording
yeah.
of
Or
this
the,
course may just be different.
The objectives.
the objectives, the in-depthness of what it covers. I mean, you could have,
Okay, it's just
you could
basically
have,
not-
sports statistics, which would be completely different than, some other statistics course.
Kind of like this applied chemistry and society. Okay, whatever.
All right. Any other discussion on this? So moving on, the next item is 8D, which I assume is asking for immediate action on.
Yes.
So what we're asking for is immediate action on this. Needs a unanimous vote, correct? To take immediate action, then we'll vote separately on the item.
I'll move for immediate action.
Second.
Discussion? We just did discussion, so all those in favor of taking immediate action on this, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously, so now we're actually going to vote on the approval of the youth options as presented. Can I get a motion to approve? Okay. Someone make a motion. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Informational, under 9, informational documents, that's not really an agenda item, is it? No. So moving on to 10, information follow-up.
Just want to thank Gary for getting back to me on, I can't remember what I asked.
But he got back to you.
But thank you. So thank you, Gary. Yeah,
Your
Gary, so I
can-do
just wanted
attitude
to
is so
thank you.
appreciated in this district.
Thanks for doing a great job, Gary.
I forgot to write on my sticky what.
And Gary can get back to me on that thing?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Motion to adjourn?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned at 9:30.
Now, that seemed long, didn't it?
Well, because you're super.